How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. This is Eden Maybon of Light Cycle Astrology. Today, we are getting into 12 horoscopes for the 12 rising signs, and we're taking a look at the Capricorn and Aquarius occupied houses in the birth chart because there's so many planetary energies congregating right now in those signs. With the Pluto-Sun conjunction and Mercury retrograde now emerging as the morning star and becoming visible in the Capricorn house. And for the Aquarius house in your birth chart, Venus moving into that conjunction with Saturn coming up, the important ingress of the sun followed by a new moon in Aquarius, the sun's upcoming trine to Mars, who is now moving back into direct motion and picking up speed. And given all of these things, these are just naturally good houses to take a look at in the birth chart right now. Okay, so let's go ahead and pull up the real-time clock and put Aries on the ascendant. Now, so we can see that this is bringing in the topics of the 10th house and the 11th house. Some of the things on my notes here are a shifting workload that involves more group efforts. Okay, so we're talking about things shifting from the 10th towards the 11th, but also with the Sun-Pluto conjunction, the emergence of Mercury as a morning star in the 10th, something intense or powerful turning around or becoming visible in the workplace, or what you are bringing into manifestation that advances the narrative towards perhaps new goals in the 11th, social importance as it relates to those efforts, maybe something associated with friends or group associations, etc., 11th house types of things. That might also relate to pleasure or relationships becoming more serious because we have that upcoming conjunction with Venus to Saturn. Now, this is all going to also relate to Mars in the 3rd. So there may be things that are kickstarting or getting back into action as it pertains to your daily routine or your daily environment, perhaps something you may be getting back on the horse and learning at this time that may have been started a while back, but now is going to be taking a new fresh look with Mars turning direct in your 3rd house. So that's what I've got for Aries rising people. Now, if we move the chart along here to Taurus and put Taurus on the ascendant, some of my notes for this are that this is taking place between the 9th and the 10th houses now. This Capricorn and Aquarius energy is falling in those houses. So I'm looking at maybe some personal revelations that bring new ideas into the workplace or that help manifest what you're trying to practice or work on. When we talk about the 10th place, a lot of times people just use the keyword career, and it can be, but the 10th house can also be a place that is just really what you're working on day to day, what you're really practicing or working on or getting better at or trying to manifest. So there could be something philosophical or connected to some kind of guiding principle that is emerging in the 9th place, that is maybe a new set of beliefs that's helping you gain some confidence in the 10th or in the workplace, or something that you're practicing or working on right now. Thinking about advancing career through education or classes, I could see that right now, or an adjustment of beliefs or principles that begins a serious call to action that may also relate to your status in relationships or reputation as a creator. So this, connection with Venus making its conjunction to Saturn in the 10th also speaks a little bit to that. Something creative or seriously creative could be taking place in the realm of career or activity. Okay, so that's what I've got for my Taurus risings. So if we go ahead and put Gemini on the ascendant, we're putting Mars in your 1st house, and we've got now this congregation of energy of the planets is really concentrated in the 8th house and the 9th house. So for my notes on Gemini rising, something emerging or turning around in a very powerful way that has to do with a partner's resources, potentially paying down some bills, etc. that shifts the emphasis for you into a space of broadening your horizons, spirituality, beliefs, educationally, or philosophically. So this connection between the 8th, having things shift into the 9th, this makes me wonder if there is something shaping up around how we are connected to our partner's resources, or how we are connected to that which is sort of a financial obligation one way or another. Sometimes it's the financial obligations we have to a bank, or to pay a ticket or a bill or something like that. But other times it's sometimes a partner that can bring assets to the table. Something around that with the sun conjoining Pluto, something kind of powerful taking place, maybe something that was really earthy and became manifest out in the world in some kind of resource situation. But something is emerging with Mercury still in retrograde, but now emerging as that morning star. Something is coming into the light with regards to those resources or joint assets or bills or obligations, that somehow shifts things towards broadening either education or philosophy, beliefs, something that is sort of beginning to become more serious and effective in the 9th house. So that's an interesting one right there. I'm wondering if there are things that are becoming freed up in certain financial situations that allow for something to take place in a more philosophical or mental space. So that's what I have for my Gemini risings. Now let's go ahead and put Cancer on the ascendant here. And this is going to bring that retrograde Mars stationing direct in your 12th house. And then this whole congregation of planets in Capricorn and Aquarius is going to fall now in your 7th house of relationships. And it's all heading towards the 8th house topics here. So what I have for my Cancer rising notes here, perhaps there is a power struggle that was sort of intense, that shifts things in a relationship or partnership, that has an effect on joint resources or bills. This is almost sort of the opposite of Gemini risings, where maybe for Gemini risings, there was something that shifted within assets or joint assets, or something in that realm that almost brings you into a more of a philosophical place. Whereas with Cancer risings, it's almost like something shifts in the realm of partnerships or relationships or marriage that brings you into that joint asset place of bills, loans, debts. And it doesn't always have to be for the 8th house things that we are having to, it's like, 8th house things, we're going to lose money, we got to pay a parking ticket. Although it can be. But sometimes it means that maybe something really powerful and intense happened with a marriage partner that brings resources to the table within the marriage. And now there's the ability to refinance a house or something like that, or pay down some college debt or something like that. So, but there's definitely this connection with the 7th to the 8th, and we're going to bring in Mars here, something in the 12th. So that 8th house connection is going to be making when the sun moves to make a trine to Mars in the 12th, there is something that is getting going within a healing or a place of solitude, that 12th house shadowy place with Mars in there. For this one, I guess because there's this contact between the 8th house that is associated with like taxes and debt, and then the 12th house, which is associated with things that lead you astray, I would be really careful about Venus maybe being taking out money for things that are Venusian or luxurious, or something that somehow is a bad influence on 12th house things that could lead you astray. Beliefs or habits, or other people that come in and encourage things that are maybe not so great for you. So there is a little bit of I guess just a heads up for Cancer risings, is that something shifts in the relationship or partnership realm that brings in the matters of joint assets or loans and debts, bills or finances in some way that may have a little bit of a shadowy influence that you kind of have to just be careful of. So that is what I'm seeing for Cancer rising. Now let's go ahead and drop Leo onto the ascendant here. And I'll pull up my Leo notes. Okay, so this is happening in your 6th and 7th house. Something turning around or becoming visible as it pertains to health or how you've been working hard on what you've been doing lately that is recovering, or a light at the end of the tunnel is kind of happening here. Now, as planets are heading towards the 7th house of completion, there's this direction that we see where, so that there may have been something that you've been really, really having your nose to the grindstone, something that you've been really working to complete. It might have something related to do with health, like trying to heal yourself or recover from an accident or something like that. And it may have been like I'm getting the sense that there's something that's kind of an ongoing sort of long haul type of situation. And I'm wondering, as things begin to ingress into your 7th, if that doesn't represent something about those projects, is you can see a light at the end of the tunnel finally after all this time. And because the 7th house is related to areas of our life that move into completion. So planets moving out of the 6th, the place that is associated with just the drudgery of just constant and endless toil of hard work, things that are difficult or challenging, things that relate to employees or tenants, or being an employee that is working, a hard blue collar kind of laborious type of work. And that also has to do with service or health. Those things somehow are moving towards the 7th house of completion. So maybe there's a connection with partners or friendships or close companions that somehow help you bring things to completion. Or maybe this is just a sign that those things you've been working on are actually heading towards that, okay, light at the end of the tunnel moment where you're like, oh, there's some relief coming up here. Okay, so that is what I have for Leo rising. Now, let me go ahead and put Virgo onto the ascendant. And this is going to place that emphasis of energy of planetary culmination now in the 5th house of children and creativity, recreation. And there's going to be a shift or emergence that brings things into the 6th house of hard work and service. So this one I just is like tongue in cheek. It's kind of fun for me because, Virgo risings, of course, Virgo risings, their favorite thing is going to be serving or helping other people. So we've got a shift from something that is creative, but potentially having to do with children or recreation, that is moving towards now more hard work and service. So very Virgo rising already. So I think for other signs, this might be like, oh man, but for Virgo risings, it's probably like, hey, this is awesome. I get to go back to work and be of service now. But let me go ahead and pull up my notes real quick. Okay, so for Virgo rising, happening in the 5th and 6th, a creative emergence of a powerful experience or experiences, potentially with children, creativity, that begins to shift the focus back towards your favorite service or the daily grind that may jumpstart things getting done in the sphere of career. Yeah, this is really interesting with Virgo rising. So we also have Mars here in Gemini in the 10th that is stationing direct a few days ago and is now beginning to move forward again. So this whole connection with maybe coming out of recreation or pleasure, creativity, maybe doing something for fun or hanging out with children and spending a lot of time with children. Something is transpiring that is moving things definitely towards work and service, and 10th house matters. Success or reputation, or, maybe gaining success in learning something for your career or work. There's definitely an emphasis that is shifting way more towards work and career for Virgo rising. So that's what I'm seeing for Virgos. Let's go ahead and drop Libra onto the ascendant now, which brings all of this energy into your 4th house, your 5th house, and then we have Mars in the 9th. All right. So for Libra risings, Definitely an intense emergence of circumstances at home, in the family, maybe with property you own, potentially with your father, that shifts the efforts towards a more serious involvement with children, or that which brings fun, recreation, sports, entertainment for the family, etc., that will impact your bigger perspective on what really matters to you, maybe your faith or belief. So we're just pulling in all of those houses, the ninth, the fourth, and the fifth, but essentially things are coming to light, turning around, shifting in the home, the uh, land or property, maybe with the father or with the family, that is bringing things more towards a fifth house area of maybe recreation, what you're just doing to have fun or be creative, enjoying yourself, getting out there, maybe playing some sports. But there's something transpiring that is serious because it's Venus conjoining to Saturn. So there's Venus in her joy in the fifth house. So really, we're getting a good, nice, clean Venus that is having a lot of pleasure in whatever this is amounting to. But it's conjoining with a serious Saturn there. And then as the sun moves in and begins to trine Mars, Mars is turning around in the ninth and back into direct motion. So there is something that is like, hey, I've been really focused on everybody else in my family. Maybe I've been really doing things for things at home. And, Libra always trying to be the mediator, trying to balance themselves with others, usually more others than themselves. Maybe this is a time where you're need to step away from some of those familial obligations and find out what is good for your children or for your own peace of mind and recreation. And this maybe turns things around and gets things activated in your ninth house of just, it gives you an overall higher, perspective, or restructures principles or things that guide you in your life. And you sort of go, wait a minute, these things are really important. I can't always, not pay attention to them. I have to put some effort. I have to really make sure I'm having fun in my life, or hanging out with my children and having fun with my children, or doing the things that I find fulfilling or creative, And that brings sort of a higher philosophical awareness, I think. So that's what I've got for Libra. So let's go ahead and put Scorpio on the ascendant, my own personal rising sign. So this one is a little bit more easy for me to see how it's playing out. But with Scorpio, we are having the energy congregate in the third and fourth house, with that Mars being emphasized in the eighth house. Okay, so perhaps letting go of some practice or achievement that's personal to you because of circumstances emerging within daily routines, your mental spaces, the routines of the environment, or routine places that you visit or go to every day, that is moving towards the family, home, property, becoming more beautiful and serious in some way, that somehow connects to joint resources, the resources of partners, which is now starting to get going all in the eighth house right now. So, you could see things like loans to build, or, something that is having to do with joint assets, loans, things that are somehow brought back down into the fourth house, with all this energy moving in, with the sun ingressing, with the new moon, with Venus conjoining with Saturn here, Mercury turning around in the third. I get the sense that there's definitely something that's shifting within the regular routine. It's like the regular routine is being refreshed somehow, or the mental spaces. Something is emerging that brings all of this new intellectual, all of the intellectual emphasis, because we're talking about Aquarius in the fourth. So you get this sense that there's a lot of ideas, there's maybe some innovation happening, something with properties, family, that is taking place in the fourth house, but it's going to somehow connect, I think, in hopefully a positive way for the eighth house of shared resources. So this could definitely be, like, my prime example would be somebody getting a loan or having access to money from a partner, in some way that does things for the home or the family, the property, you know, building a new addition, which is exactly what is happening in my life. We also see that the full moon culminated in the ninth and is now in its last quarter stage in the first. So we could pull in even the last quarter moon representing something that is letting go of an old philosophy, moving towards a new philosophy that has to do with home and family and the everyday work environment. So you can also play with the moon phase here too. Where does the last quarter moon fall in your birth chart if you want to even get a little bit more of a indicator of how things are shifting or moving? Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to put Sagittarius now on the ascendant. My Sag risings in the house, and we are going to talk about things that are transpiring in the second, but moving towards the third. Something rooted. Okay, this is definitely a financial one. I'm getting for Sagittarius. Things rooted around money and being in debt or in entanglements with others financially, that is creating a powerful motivation that is beginning to shift routines, mental habits, communications, or learning, that will also have a regenerative effect on relationships with close friends or partners. So I'm getting that because we had the full moon take place in the 8th house of shared resources. The moon is coming through right now, and it's entering its last quarter phase in the 11th on into the 12th, and it's basically dying out through the 1st and the 2nd. We've got Mercury stationing to turn direct. The next day, we've got the Sun-Pluto conjunction. So things are definitely, we had the full moon in the 8th. We've got things emerging or coming to light in the 2nd. And all of this is shifting towards the 3rd. So it seems like something around finances is stimulating mental ideas or innovations within your routine or habits or mental habits or spaces, potentially the everyday environment. Things are getting changed or shifting towards those daily routines. And somehow this is going to, as the sun moves into your 3rd house and begins to trine Mars, somehow this is contacting the 7th house place of partners or relationships or marriage. So I think that this could actually be a pretty interesting one because it's a very mental one, and it is centered around finances in some way, partner finances, your own finances, but somehow that trine to me represents something good that could be taking place in the relationships that you have within marriages or friendships or business partnerships. Something like that is transpiring, and I'm getting a good feeling from it, where maybe you're able to get a hold of something financially right now that eventually changes the daily habits or routines, but for a good way that, you know, has a potentially a reactivating effect on some relationships that you have. Okay, so that is what I see for Saggies, and let's go ahead and drop Capricorn on the ascendant now. So we are having this congregation of planetary energy take place now in your 1st house, a very, very personal house, but it's shifting in towards the 2nd house. Mars is in your 6th. Okay, so we have perhaps something that was happening within a marriage or partnership that brought something very intense and personal to you. That's because we see that the full moon was happening in the 7th house. And this could be, things could be shifting within your soul. I'm getting very deep on that one because the 1st house is the house of soul. So you could always say, you know, within your body or within your psychology or your character, all 1st house things. But I think all of those things are going to begin on that soul level and sort of emanate out from there. So things shifting within your soul that somehow will begin to connect you to your own personal finances, assets, maybe even personal assistance, maybe even learning something new that allows you to make money or invest in something, something financially related. But this will all have the effect of jumpstarting major heroic efforts that really puts your nose back to the grindstone. So I think that that is really interesting because we're talking about Mars turning back into direct motion into your 6th house. And Mars was said to have his joy in the 6th. So it starts out as something very, very personal, maybe because of a reflection within a relationship or marriage that sort of comes back and changes things within on a soul level. And there's some connection to, like, maybe I need to do something with my own personal finances. And maybe that something is going to get you back to work, So, Capricorn risings love to be at work anyway. So this is potentially a pretty good thing. But I'm seeing the shift really transpire towards the topics of work and the daily grind and routine that is work related, for the purposes of taking finances more seriously, with Venus conjoining with Saturn there in the 2nd. All right, let's go ahead and put Aquarius now on the ascendant. And for my Aquarius risings, this is happening between the 12th and the 1st house. So I think, first of all, this one may be more difficult. My 8-year-old son, he is an Aquarius rising. It's sometimes hard to see the astrology of houses working in your children because the natal promise of their birth chart isn't they haven't had enough experience for things to bloom out of the natal promise yet. So you can see it if you kind of look at it long enough, I suppose, but this one could be more difficult, I think. So we're talking about the 12th and the 1st, something about things emerging from an isolated or solitary meditative place, some kind of struggle to return to self somehow, maybe a powerful transformation, shadowy things coming into the light that are not good for you, or would even do you harm. That is shifting awareness towards yourself in a serious but loving way, your commitment to yourself that will get things going around the topics of children, personal recreation, or creativity. So we're just pulling in all of those houses. We're pulling in Mars in the 5th. But this Mercury turning direct a day after, but by Tuesday, January the 17th, emerging from under the beams, I get this sense that there has been some inward meditative, maybe even dark night of the soul kind of thing, or something has really been gestating in the shadows. And Mercury emerging as the morning star, something is coming to light. There's Pluto gaining that conjunction, shedding the light on the underworld, all happening in Capricorn, which is a place of shadows. Something is coming out of the shadows, but it's meant to drive things back towards a very personal soul level place that is something having to do with self love, or hopefully, sometimes with Venus and Saturn, hopefully Saturn doesn't bring austerity to that self-love. So I think for Aquarius risings, you want to make sure that you're not like disassociating from yourself. Like take your self-love seriously, but don't be so austere that you don't need any love for yourself. That's sort of the advice I would give maybe for this combination of planets here. But in any case, things are moving towards something very personal on a soul level that's very existential or deep. And this does pertain to something in the 5th, to either children, things getting going again with Mars turning direct in the 5th, maybe just a breakthrough in something you're doing recreationally or creatively, creatively, that's the word, something breaking through with creativity or with children or recreation in those realms, I think is transpiring or will transpire. All right, so let's go ahead and last and certainly not least, let's go ahead and put Pisces on the ascendant, and we'll see what's going on with our Pisces risings. Okay, so this is going to drop the energy into your 11th house, and things are moving towards or shifting towards the 12th house. And then there is that connection to the 4th house. So on my notes, I have a letting go of a belief or principle, maybe revelations or intense events that happen around groups or people that make you want to find a quiet place to regroup, heal, perhaps in a home setting or with a family. that causes a new period of activity in your home, property, or family. Okay, so when we pull in all of these places now, we've had a culmination take place in the fifth house. This one's really interesting. It's almost like there was some big reflection in the last couple of weeks that had to do with recreation, creativity, with family, maybe just enjoying yourself, having fun. Probably family, since we're talking about a Cancer fifth house here. And then somehow that culmination or reflection is now needing to be let go of as the moon wanes and moves towards a new moon in the 12th house. But it's as if there was something between recreation and groups of friends or something in the friends social arena is coming to light with Mercury stationing and turning direct, emerging as the morning star. Pluto and the sun getting together in the 11th speaks to, something intense, something shifting, coming to light within some kind of social situation, maybe within groups that are associated in your workplace, cliques, maybe even goals or aspirations as it relates to things that you're trying to do in the world. But something around the 11th house topics is shifting into the 12th, which tells me that it's almost like you need a reprieve or you need some space. We are talking about Pisces risings here, a very sensitive sign. So it's like Pisces often needs that time alone because they're so sensitive. They need to just get out of the electromagnetic field of everybody around them and their friends, something like that. And I think with Venus and Saturn here, there could be something that is potentially like shadowy, that is maybe a little bit austere. Venus losing some self-love because it's conjoining with Saturn, and Saturn is saying, you need to not worry about your own pleasure so much. I would say don't take it so far that you are doing detrimental things to your own health or, mental health, as it were. This could be a moment where that solitude is meant to bring some serious loving contemplation, but don't, flagellate yourself to the point of, or don't get so emotionally worked up to the point of that you're denying yourself that beauty of contemplation or the love of contemplation. And then just this connection with the sun eventually moving into the 12th and making that trine to Mars, who is now turning direct in the 4th, makes me wonder if activity does not restart or jumpstart in the 4th. Maybe you really need that space at home, and it's maybe the home or the family needs some work in order to have that really nice place that you can seriously unwind and get away from everything. Okay, so that is what I'm seeing for all 12 rising signs for the Capricorn and Aquarius houses, bringing in Mars a little bit there. Please let me know in the comments how you see maybe some of these things taking place, because I'm just giving some general broad significations for these houses. And of course, there are a million different ways in which these things could manifest or appear in our lives. But I'm really interested to see how some of these turn out for you. Let me know how the horoscopes were for your particular rising sign. And just say, I am such and such rising sign, and this is happening in these houses, and this is what happened real briefly. Don't give me the whole chart or anything, but just quick little things are really fun to share with people and for myself to see. And it gives us a sense of how these things actually did manifest or turn out as they were getting together and shifting in these places. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching. I'll be back again tomorrow with another video. Have a great start to your week here, and I'll see you soon. Bye.